Today, I want to talk about why you're failing to meet your New Year resolution goals, or simply put, why you're failing to meet your goals. And let's go for a specific example here. Let's say it comes December, and you know the drill, you've probably done this many times. Come December, you're really pumped up and motivated to, let's say, to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds within the first 6 months of the next year. So in December, you buy a gym membership, you buy all the meal containers for your meal prep, you go with a friend, you make a commitment to go with a friend to go to the gym at least two or three times a week, etc., etc. You get all the recipes, but come a certain time, you realize it's harder than you thought it was. It sucks, the results are not as frequent or as fast as you want them to be, and you stop. Maybe February, March, April, you just stop going. And that's what usually happens to a lot of gyms. There's an influx of members that come in January and February, but then come March, April, whatever, there's no one there. They failed. It's not that they failed, it's just that they stopped trying. That's why they failed. And it's not really because there's a lack of information. If anything, there's an overload of information out there. If you want to learn something, you just have to search it up online. You don't have to pay for anything. There's tons of free tutorials on YouTube, on Reddit, on Quora, Eve, if that site even still exists, and they lay it out. So clearly, the information is out there. So it's not the lack of information, or it's not because you don't have information. Rather, it's something else. And there's a lot of garbage advice that people say. Oh, if you want it enough, you'll do it. That's just garbage advice. Anyone can want something. Anyone can want something enough, or anyone can want something a lot. But if you don't have the systems in place, it just won't happen. If you're not consistent, it's not going to happen. And there's an underlying assumption here. If you're hard enough, if you have enough resolve in your goals, and it's kind of built in the phrase New Year's resolution too. If you have enough resolution to do what it takes to get what you want, you'll get there. And that's just it sounds easy and sounds nice, and it's very simple. It's like just like the Nike slogan, just do it, you do it, and it's easy. No. If it were that easy, everyone would be achieving their goals. But unfortunately, 90%, 95% statistics are all made up of people fail to meet their New Year's resolution goals. So why is this? Why don't people meet their goals? Even though they're so motivated in the beginning, and they're so adamant, and they're so determined to get what they want, to get a certain physique, or maybe a little bit more logical and measurable, like losing 20, 30 pounds within 6 months. Why don't they get them? So before I want to get into that, I want to explain that there's a specific assumption and a belief that we have that we really don't really question. And I think it's a strategy that we apply to reaching our goals. And usually, when we want our goals, it's about going hard. It's about just going at it. It's about being consistent, being disciplined, being motivated, being accountable. These are all very masculine terms. I will explain more of this energy between masculine and feminine, but I want to take us back to why we even have that to begin with. The first reason is, if you probably remember from school when you were younger, it's all about getting good grades. It's all about achieving good in sports, winning in sports. It's about getting the A's. Tests, you get good grades, then you go to a good school, good grades, good job. So then the goals get shifted to, it's all about performance and achievement. And there's no bad thing inherently about this. The reason we live in such a pretty decent society today, I mean, a lot of people would probably disagree that it's a good society today, but it's not that bad compared to 50, 100, 200, 500, 1,000 years ago. But that's another video. So there's a bias that we have towards progression and achievement. And that's kind of been instilled in us since we were younger. Since we were young, it's all about more doing. I got to get things done. I got to get things done. I got to get this thing so I can get this thing, car, get a house, have a family, travel, always doing something. You're always doing something to get to place, to get to another place. Coming back to the masculine and the feminine energy, I just want to say that this has nothing really to do with the genders. It's more of an energy. The masculine energy, to put it more simply, it's not really about man itself or a woman for the feminine. The masculine is more of the cold, it's more of the disciplinarian, it's more of the structure, it's more of the policies, it's more of the strategy, it's more of the sturdy, it's more of the stoic. And on contrast, on the other hand, with feminine, it's a different kind of energy. It's more of the love and the warm embrace. It's more of empathy, trying to understand other people, trying to be compassionate of other people. So, as you can see, the first, is pushing towards more doing things and getting goals achieved. And the other one, not so much, it's more about understanding and more connection. And these are all both good energies, but they're different. There's always a time and place for each one. And I'd argue every human being has their set point or within a striking range of how masculine they are in terms of energy and how feminine they are in terms of energy. You could be a man, you could be a woman. It just depends. It just depends. And you'd probably agree that a lot of people who are sad or depressed or there's something wrong is because there's an imbalance of that. They're working too hard for the masculine, or they're not working enough, or they're resting too much, or they're not resting enough. And there's always a yin and yang that's happening here. There's always that masculine energy and the feminine energy always at odds with each other. Not in the sense of that they're fighting with each other. Not that it's a fighting and contrarian energy, but more of that they balance each other yang. It's a yin and yang. Just like with the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, they're always at odds with each other. They try to balance each other out. So for that example, it's not really a bad or a good thing. Just like with fire and water. For some reason, let's take fire. Fire is seen as the bad element, and water is seen as a good element for some reason. But that's not necessarily the case. Fire can be used to heat up your food. It can be used to produce heat and electricity. But on the bad side, it could be, if it's left untamed, it could just burn down villages, towns, and just cause a lot of destruction. And conversely, for the water, not necessarily good or bad either. It could be too much water, it could just flood an entire city, just cause massive damage, or it could be good. You need water for living organisms, you need water to bathe, to drink, etc., etc. So there's no good or bad here. So I'd argue it's about really channeling the energy to the proper places. It's not really about denying them. It's not about saying I don't have this type of energy or I don't want this energy. It's more about recognizing the reality of it. Hey, there's this energy that's flowing from the masculine, or there's energy flowing for the feminine, and I want to be able to use that properly and where I should be using them. And I give you another example. So I said the fire and the water. The masculine energy is more like a hammer. It's a tool. It's something hard, and you use it to get something done. You use it to get your results. Just like the goals, you use it to get something. But for the feminine is more of an art piece. It's more of something to be appreciated. It's more of something soft. It's more something to be looked at and appreciated. And notice that I don't even say strong. I don't say a strong masculine energy or a strong feminine energy, because they both have strong qualities. If there's more masculine energy, it's more strong. If there's more feminine energy, is a stronger feminine energy. So both have its own strengths. It's just a matter of how it's used and where it's applied towards. We know that the masculine energy is valued more in today's society. Why is that? That's a good question. It is because we live in a democratic capitalism society. We want things. We want to produce things to sell to people. And when people sell things, they make money. And with money, you can buy other things. You can consume things. So it matters on doing. There's always things to be done. There's always progress involved. So the feminine energy, the wellness, the rest, the relaxation is not so much valued. Of course, it still is, but the masculine is always going to be more valued because of that reason. And going back to the analogy of why you don't lose weight, it's because we have a faulty assumption, a faulty self-belief that because it's always worked like that, the more effort we put in, the harder we are on ourselves, the more critical we are ourselves, the harder and the more time and effort we put into it, we get it to our goals. Yes, that is true, but it's not going to work for everything. Some things you may need to lean in to your feminine more, to relax more, to slow down a little bit more. And I'll give you another example. If a car and you use that car to get to some place, and you just drive it as fast as possible, yes, you may get to the destination faster, but what happens? You drive it to the ground. Your tires are all scraped up. You need to have an oil change. You need to take care of your car. So yes, the masculine has its purpose, but you need to also lean into the rest and have the car rest for about a while. You don't want it to overheat. And this is the problem where I think the culture that we have today is we always think about more, and more. To more work, and we neglect to take care of ourselves. And that could mean a lot of different things. It could just mean taking care of your health. It could mean your physical health or your mental health. You also have social needs that you have. You need to be able to connect with people. You need to have a sense of meaning and community. You need to have some kind of purpose. These are all things that just going and going might exclude and make us preclude and avoid this thinking and empathy and compassion with and taking the time to see what's happening and just really rest. Sometimes you just need some rest too. So that's the main assumption that was built in, that we rarely question, that maybe sometimes you don't always have to go so hard into it. What is the most, going back to the example, what is the most sustainable thing for me to reach to my goal without having to sacrifice my own well-being too much? Well, of course, sometimes sacrifices have to be made too, but it has to be a bargaining act and negotiation, because everyone's proclivities and personalities are a little bit different too. Some people may urge more on the masculine side. Some people may urge more on the feminine side, and that's okay. But it's up to the individual to determine how much they can pursue and how much they can keep going without burning themselves out too much. And I want to end that with this video, is to ask you a question. When you do pursue your goals, do you typically you probably lean on the masculine side, because that's just how our culture is today. But how can you lean into your feminine side more? How can you take care of yourself a little bit more? How can you slow down a little bit more? But in a sense, it's not that we rest for the sake of resting too, right? We want to be resting from work itself. If you're resting and you're not recovering from something, you're just kind of wasting time too. So it's a fine art of balance where there is work, so you work you work so you can get to your goals. But you also rest, so to rest, but you also rest, so you don't have to work. But you also rest so we can work. It's a weird cycle. And everyone has to determine how much it is based on their own personality traits. And hopefully I made sense there. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to discuss.